So Gus was a merchant from then on. That was what he was. But then he came up with ways to there wasn't enough population there, and so he was haying, and he built a road over to the field over near another stream, not the Little Colorado, but up one a little higher, and that was his first road. And then he marked it, and then all the wagons would go up there, and he'd go over and he'd hay over there and be able to bring the stuff back down the end of the valley. And this went on and on and on. He laid out a road up from down New Mexico, all the way across the flats, all the way up into the mountains, and that was the first part of Highway 60. And then he built roads up to St. John's, and then down to Salt River Canyon and Becker Buttes up there as a tribute to his work on building highways.
How did they make roads back in those days? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, sure do. Absolutely. My grandfather, when he came in from New Mexico, the name of the town was all burned up in Mexico. I can't Mexican like I've gotten older, and it'll come to me. But anyway, and he had to drive wagon. It used to go all the way up to St. John's, and then down the back way by the old Salt Lake, the volcanic lake there by the Salt Lake, and then down the same way he came in back in '87, in '78, just like that. But so when he wanted to come from this place, he sighted in on the Escadilla, which is a mountain up by just up above Springerville. He sighted in on that and started driving across the flats, pounding stakes to where you could go easily. And then, because most of the supply is coming up to Springerville, and he did that all the way to his house, all the way to where Becker, right to the settlement. And then he would pay the wagon drivers extra to deliver his goods so he get the track going. And everybody understood they didn't have to go clear up by the Salt Lake and St. John's and all the way down there to Springerville. They started doing that, and pretty soon, he'd come back and he and his boys or people coming down would remove rocks to make it easier to drive. And the same thing when they had to deliver grain over to Camp Apache. He'd start up this road, moving rocks and pounding stakes, and an old cowboy that knew some of the country up there and how to get across. And they did the same thing in Salt River Canyon. They had to ultimately build some bridges and stuff, but he was tireless. He knew what had to be done. He was going to have the highway to Los Angeles come through Springerville.